Hey, it's great to be back with CPAC Live. Matt Schlapp, my heroic chairman of the board, is in Michigan. Today he's with the bus tour again, but we've got an amazing show for you today. We were just in Pennsylvania with CPAC Pennsylvania, just south of Pittsburgh. We had amazing speakers. Diamond and Silk brought the house down, but we want to share with you Matt Schlapp's interview with Sean Parnell. Sean Parnell, I think most of you probably know him as somebody who is a great American patriot, fought for us as a U.S. soldier, and now he's running against the most vulnerable Democrat in the House. I won't even mention his name because his name isn't worth it. He pretends to be a moderate, but he does Nancy Pelosi's bidding. So Matt Schlapp interviews Sean Parnell, followed by the incomparable Gordon Chang, who throws fire. So I hope you enjoyed today's show.
The great defender of Pennsylvania values, ACU Chairman Matt Schlapp, in a conversation with Sean Parnell.
Hey everybody, how's it going? How you doing? So is it not a great day to be an American? You know what, are we excited about 4 more years? Can you say it? Let's hear it. I love it. See, we got to go. See, we got it going on here.
I feel so short. Is that how everyone feels? So we were talking backstage, Sean, about a couple things. The first thing is we're watching this video.
Yes.
What is going on in our country?
Well, I think right now the American way of life is at risk. In fact, that's part of the reason why I decided to run for Congress. Does anybody know my story and how I came to serve? Maybe a little bit. Do you mind if I tell it real quick? Do you mind? So I was an infantry platoon leader at the height of the hunt for bin Laden in Afghanistan in 2006. Our mission was just to find the guy. We didn't. But we found a lot of bad guys, thousands of enemy troops. My platoon took an 85% casualty rate. Some of my men were wounded twice, some 3 times. I was wounded myself and medically retired. And I left the military broken in 2010 and sort of had to reinvent myself in the private sector. Came back here to Western Pennsylvania where I was born and raised. Started writing books for a living. Had no idea that my first book would take off and become a bestseller, but that also gave me the opportunity to do a lot of charity work. I've been doing that for the last 8 years until one day President Trump came to the district at the Marcellus Shale Coalition and called me out randomly to run for Congress, and I wasn't even there. So do you want to hear the story? Okay. So I'm down in South Carolina. We had just given a service dog to a veteran. I come off the stage and I look at my phone and I had 50 missed calls. And I mean, from reporters, consultants, aspiring campaign managers. But you know what call was scared me the most? My mother. My mom. She was calling me over and over and over again. She's like this fierce Italian woman. And I get off the stage and I'm like, Ma, what's wrong? What's going on? I thought there was a death in the family. And she just goes to me, she goes, Sean. I'm like, what, Ma? She goes, are you running for Congress? And I said, Ma, no, I'm not running for Congress. And she just pauses. And she goes, well, the President of the United States says you're running for Congress. And I said, what? And she sends me the video of President Trump going off script and calling me out to run. And so guess what? Turned my life upside down, got in the race, and we've been campaigning ever since. And guess what? We are winning. And I am and I am so excited. I'll tell you what, I am so excited to take the gavel from Nancy Pelosi and give the power in this country back to the people. I love it. This is the best part of the job.
All right, so while you're taking the gavel from Nancy Pelosi, could you do us a favor? Could you do a little cleanup work? Along the way, could you take the gavel away from Mr. Schiff and Mr. Nadler?
Yes. That's what we're going to do. I mean, look, ultimately, so how many of y'all remember Connor Lamb when, how many of y'all remember what Connor Lamb said when he ran for Congress? Do you remember Connor Lamb? Connor Lamb promised that he would be an independent, moderate voice for Western Pennsylvania. Do you remember that? You remember in his very first ad, he posed with an AR-15 and said he was going to be pro-gun. Guess what rating he has with the NRA today? F. Guess what rating I have? A, that's right. Conor Lamb also told you that he was pro-life, but he voted against the Born Alive Act not once, but twice. Conor Lamb also told you one of the first things that he said after he won was that he looks forward to supporting the conservatives and Trump supporters that put him there. And then he voted to impeach the president. And then Conor Lamb said he was going to oppose Nancy Pelosi, but guess what? He votes with her over 90% of the time, and if that's not bad enough, he votes with Ilhan Omar and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez 90% of the time. So, let me ask you a question. Is that an independent, moderate voice? Did he keep his promises to Western Pennsylvania? No. And so, I love your passion, ma'am. I love it. And so, listen. We were talking backstage, this job is about being a representative by and for the people. And guess what? If you lie to the people, it's disqualifying. And guess what? In November, we are going to disqualify Conor Lamb from office.
So let me get this straight. Conor Lamb has an F with the NRA.
Yes.
And an A with Nancy Pelosi.
That's correct. That's correct. He actually does have an A with Nancy Pelosi.
And
yes.
if Nancy Pelosi can push people like Conor Lamb to another victory, because she's spending a lot of money through Act Blue, do you think they'll impeach the president again?
I absolutely. Who all thinks that Congress will impeach the president again? They're already talking about impeachment 2.0. In fact, Matt, when you were talking about Nancy Pelosi, she's literally trying to buy this district for Conor Lamb. In fact, I think something like 9 months prior to the election, her super PAC invested $1.3 million into PA 17 to help get him across the goal line, because even Speaker Pelosi knows that Conor Lamb is weak and that Conor Lamb is vulnerable. But guess what? We're not going to allow that to happen. Do you want to know why? You want to know why? Because for the first time ever in the second quarter, I outraised Conor Lamb. And you know what? We did it in grand fashion. I outraised him by over $270,000. And so guess what? Guess what? Guess what else? Guess what else? We just got polling back. 40 plus days to election day, the race in PA 17 is a tie. Is a tie. And look, it's always tough as a challenger. You know that, right? I mean, it's always tough going up against an incumbent. But the fact that Conor Lamb is at 45 right now in this district does not bode well for him. We have all the momentum, right? Do you know how many doors we knocked last weekend? 7,000 doors. In the last 3 months? Yeah, he's one. Yes, exactly. You are. I know. You guys are great. You know what we call our door knockers? We call our door knockers Parnell's platoon. And in the last 4 months, we've had over, I think, something like 5,000 volunteer signups here in Western Pennsylvania. And the volunteers that work as part of our movement, it's not just about me, it's about candidates up and down the ballot. It's about making sure that Western Pennsylvania stays red for generations, right? And it's about preserving, I mean, ultimately, you ask what's going on in this country, I think it's all on the line, ladies and gentlemen. I think that America right now, you know, all politicians come out and they say, this is the most important election of our lifetime. But 2020, it really is. You know, I believe that this country stands on a very thin line between hope and darkness. All right, we are in a fight for the heart and soul of this country. Freedom versus socialism. The ability to chart your own path. The ability to chart your own path in this life, or total government control over every aspect of your life. And so we need you all to fight, because you know what? I have a feeling that everybody in this room chooses freedom, right? So,
can I ask you a couple questions?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry, I'm just talking.
No. This is, hey, Sean, this is your show. We need people like you to win, and I'd like to just thank you for running. because it takes a lot of courage to run.
Thank you.
But I have a couple questions for you.
Sir. Yes, sir.
You want to defund cops?
Absolutely not. I want to defend the police. And so for the first time, so guess what? So in 2018, Connor Lamb gratefully accepted the police union's endorsement for the most part here in Western Pennsylvania. But for the first time in a long time, they're all galvanized behind me.
You think President Biden that it's just to take nuns to court to make them pay for abortions and contraception and these things? Does that make sense to you?
Nothing. Very little of what Joe Biden says makes sense to me. And I mean,
I thought you knew the secret language that Joe Biden was speaking, you know?
I don't even think Joe Biden knows the secret language of Joe Biden.
When Nancy Pelosi actually, after 3 months, goes to the floor of the House of Representatives, where you'll be soon, and finally kind of meekly denounces violence, what does that tell you?
That tells me that she finally saw the polling, right? But you know what's disconcerting about that? Is that the American people have been hurting, really hurting for months. And the Democrats did not care about the American people until it affected their poll numbers. And that is fundamentally wrong. That is fundamentally wrong. And we're going to make sure that we change that in November.
Do you think schools were meant to be open to actually educate kids, or just to be computer platforms for, for this idea that for liberals, they only like homeschooling when they can mandate it on all of us?
Yeah. I think that our children going back to school is probably going to be one of the greatest public policy debates of our time. And here's my thing. Our kids need to go back to school. And we need to get as many kids back to school as safely as possible. Because otherwise we risk leaving an entire generation behind. And most of the children that are affected by these decisions are lower income families that maybe can't afford to send their kids somewhere else. A lot of kids, what we've learned through this pandemic is a lot of children rely on 2 meals a day at school. Well, what are those little ones doing now, right? So I think we owe it to them to get we've got to come up with a plan to get as many kids back to school and as safely as possible.
As we, how many days till Election Day?
What, like 45?
Someone's probably has
45?
A shot clock here
44?
somewhere that can tell us.
45? Jeez, I don't know.
How can folks help you?
Well, listen, if you want to help me, first of all, go to SeanForCongress.co, sign up and volunteer for me, okay?
You guys have cell phones. They probably work right now.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is you don't get a job on my campaign unless you meet 3 criteria. You're humble, hungry, and you're smart. There's too much ego in politics. And part of the things that I tell the new employees on my campaign is they have to love and appreciate the volunteers. Because a commander that I had in the Army told me a long time ago, it said to me, Sean, if someone's willing to volunteer their time for you, it's sacred. Show up for them, thank them. If you sign up and you volunteer with our campaign, and you're a part of our movement, we will be there for you, and we appreciate that. So sign up to volunteer, or if you can manage it, contribute to the campaign. Be a part of this movement, because every dollar, I would say probably 90% of what I raise goes to getting the message out. And so we've been up on TV for the last month with 2 different ads. We've had a radio ad running now, and I've got a brand new ad that just came out yesterday. And part of the reason why I'm losing my voice right now is a couple days ago we did a 15-hour day and filmed 4 more TV ads that will run from now until Election Day. So you're all a part of that. None of this is possible without you.
Will Donald Trump win Pennsylvania?
Donald Trump will win the state of Pennsylvania, yes.
And to conclude this segment, because we got to get you back on the campaign trail, and we're going to have to get Diamond and Silk out here pretty soon, too. Okay. You compete with them, by the way, just barely. But close this down by explaining to folks why it's so important for them to support Donald Trump. Not that that's a problem in this room, but for everyone who's listening and watching.
Because Donald Trump is the only thing that's standing in the way of freedom, or standing in the way of socialism in this country. Donald Trump is up there on the parapet taking shots for the American people every day. He fights for us. So guess what? It's our turn to fight for him.
And as he says, when all those terrible people in the swamp and all the elites who think they're so smart, the smart set, when they attack him, they're really attacking all of you.
That's right. So fight for him. Fight for us. Fight for us.
Sean Parnell,
thank you.
Do everything you can for him, okay?
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
I'm waiting for that round of raucous applause. You know? Somebody backstage said you're going to be waiting for a heck of a long time, Charlie. You know, one of the things that we're not hearing very much from the Biden campaign is about issues. It seems the only issue that they want to talk about is how much they hate Donald Trump. They don't want to tell us what America would look like under a Biden administration because they know if they did, people would turn on them in a minute. And one of the issues that is vitally important to the United States is the issue of China. And who's prepared to lead America forward in the face of the Chinese threat but Donald J. Trump? One of the leading experts on China is our next speaker. You know Gordon Chang because you've seen him on television numerous times, and I'm sure you know that he's the author of 2 books, The Great U.S.-China Tech War, and his second volume, Losing South Korea. Now, both of those books are on sale here today at the ACU booth right over here, and Gordon has been kind enough to donate all of the proceeds from the sale of this book today to the ACU America versus Socialism Tour. I'm very proud to serve with Gordon on the ACU board. He is a valued board member of the ACU. He practiced law in Hong Kong and China for 30 years, and he now takes a lot of his time to give back through his television appearances and his education on this very, very vitally important issue of the Chinese threat that we confront. Ladies and gentlemen, Gordon Chang.
Hello, Pennsylvania Patriots! You are great Americans. My wife and I are so proud to be with you, and we applaud you. We live at a critical moment in the history of our republic. We live at a critical moment because we are under attack. China, the People's Republic of China, is attacking us. As President Trump said on May 6, Beijing's assault is worse than Pearl Harbor, worse than the World Trade Center. Quote, "There's never been an attack like this," he said on May 6. He was talking about the novel coronavirus, the China flu, and he was right. As of this morning, China killed 198,603 Americans, and more will succumb. We don't know the origin of the coronavirus. Some people say it was made in the lab, some people said it occurred naturally. But there is one thing that we do know. We know that China deliberately spread this disease to America. Chinese leaders knew for at least 5 weeks, and maybe for as long as 5 months, that this disease could be easily transmitted from one human to the next. Now, if they had said nothing for that period, that would have been grossly irresponsible. But what they did was they engaged in a campaign of deception to show that the disease was not contagious. And they successfully enlisted the help of the World Health Organization to promote this false narrative. President Donald J. Trump was absolutely right to defund the WHO and to take us out of it. But this story gets worse, because Chinese leader Xi Jinping in December and January tried to persuade countries not to impose travel restrictions and quarantines on arrivals from China. But at the same time, he was locking down the city of Wuhan and other metropolises in China to prevent travel. This shows that he knew that travel restrictions would prevent disease. And this means that he knew that he was spreading the disease when he was getting other countries not to impose those measures. It was those arrivals that took a disease which should have been confined to just the central part of China and to make it a global pandemic. We do not know what Xi Jinping was in fact thinking, but if after having seen what the virus did to cripple his own country, if he wanted to level the playing field by spreading the disease elsewhere to cripple other countries, he would have done exactly what, in fact, he did. To put this another way, there's only one explanation that fits facts, and that is this was a malicious spread of the disease. Fortunately, President Trump quickly imposed a travel restriction and a quarantine on arrivals from China on January 31. But he took a lot of heat. He took a lot of heat for this from Beijing and from Beijing Biden. Beijing Biden. Beijing Biden called President Trump for imposing the travel restrictions that saved tens of thousands of American lives. Beijing Biden called Trump xenophobic. Our president now is making China pay. And we must make China pay. We must make China pay. We must make China pay because this was not just murder. This was mass murder. Now, Beijing, we need to say something to the Chinese. And what we need to say is that we must, as you say, make China pay. Say it with me. Make China pay. Make China pay. China pay. But Beijing wasn't really done yet. It's now conducting these incendiary disinformation campaigns against the United States to convince the world that the disease started in America and that we were the ones who spread it to China. We know this because of all of the reporting and also because we see China engaging in troll operations against the President of the United States. As the New York Times reported in March, Beijing tried to sow chaos in America by spreading a rumor through text messages and social media feeds that President Trump was going to invoke his powers under the Stafford Act and lock down the entire country. And China knew this was false. Let's talk about what China's doing in Houston, or what it did in Houston. President Trump closed down the consulate in July. So, with all of China's consulates in the US, there are 5 of them. We're 5 of them. Why did he pick Houston? He picked Houston because from there, China was providing financial and logistical support to violent protesters in the United States. As Radio Free Asia has reported, an intelligence unit of the People's Liberation Army based themselves in Houston. From there, they used big data to identify Americans who would be interested in protesting in the Black Lives Matter and Antifa demonstrations. They also, in Houston, created videos and then sent them to those people who were likely to protest. And these videos told people how to riot. Subsequently, we learned that the People's Liberation Army was using technicians from Huawei Technologies, the Chinese telecom equipment manufacturer, and they were using engineers from TikTok, the Chinese video sharing app, to help them do this. Fomenting violence is not only subversion, it is also an act of war. The People's Republic is our enemy. We don't have to speculate. In May of last year, People's Daily, the most authoritative publication in China, carried a piece that said that there was going to be a quote-unquote people's war against the United States. So Beijing means you and me harm. So who is fomenting violence in America? Tell me, who is fomenting violence in America? It's China. Say it, China. Who is trying to overthrow our government? Tell me, it's China. And tell me, who has spread the disease that has killed so many Americans? Tell me, it's China. Now, China's communists have been trying to subvert and attack our society for decades, so we must make China pay. And because President Trump is the first leader in decades who is defending America and making China pay, China's communists are trying to unseat him. We learned this when we found out about the network called Spamiflage Dragon, which was relentlessly attacking through social media the President of the United States. They were doing this through YouTube, through Facebook, and through Twitter. We know that social media platforms have been taking down fake Chinese accounts. Twitter, 1 month, June of this year, took down 174,000 fake Chinese accounts. That's one social media platform, 1 month, 174,000 fake accounts. China wants to get rid of Trump. They want to get rid of Trump because they're afraid of him. And they know that President Trump will defend the United States of America. We know who is Beijing's candidate. That's Beijing Biden. Beijing Biden on CNN a couple days ago at the Anderson Cooper Open Forum would not call China even an opponent. Biden has been saying that Chinese leaders are good folks. So the folks here know that there is only one man that stands between you and me and communist China. And that means, everybody, 4 more years for President Trump. So let me hear you say it. Defend America, 4 more years. Defend America, 4 more years. Defend America, 4 more years. Remember this. Thank you very much, America.